Good evening, everybody. Welcome into our latest edition of the Milford Informer, brought to you as always from our Home Field Credit Union Studio B. I am your host, Tim Coet. Local election season is starting to heat up here in the Milford community as we are already less than a month away from the town's April 2nd election. Over the next several weeks, we'll give you as many opportunities as possible to hear from the candidates in the contested races, starting tonight with a look back at the first candidates forum that was held in town earlier this week. Let's share the details on that and the rest of what we have coming up tonight in our top stories rundown. Tonight, we'll provide a recap of the first candidate forum of the 2019 local election season, as candidates for Selectmen and School Committee answered questions from Milford High School seniors. Also tonight, hear from members of the Milford High School Theater Workshop as we go behind the scenes of their upcoming spring musical, Urinetown. And also tonight, we'll give you all of the details on the upcoming 26th annual Crossroads Clubhouse St. Patrick's Day Pancake Breakfast. As I mentioned, the 2019 local election season is now in full swing. After the deadline passed last month for potential candidates to return their nomination papers, we found out that this year's election ballot would feature 4 contested races, including both of the town's most prominent boards. After claiming victory in the special election 2 years ago to take over the Selectman seat vacated by Brian Murray, current Selectman Chair Mike Walsh is seeking re-election. After it seemed as though Mr. Walsh was going to run unopposed, local attorney and businesswoman Amy Clifford officially tossed her hat in the ring as the challenger to the lone Selectman seat on this year's ballot. Ms. Clifford is a former town meeting member in Milford who has recently returned to the town after spending time living out on the West Coast and in Canada. The race for school committee features a crowded field with 6 candidates vying for 2 open seats. Jim Legore is the lone incumbent in the race looking to return to the committee for a second term. The 5 challengers in the race include Tarek Miranda and Mike Visconti, who returned to the ballot after seeking election to the school committee last year. Recent Milford High School alums Justin Dulac and R.J. Sheedy are newcomers to the school committee race, and John Erickson looks to make a return to the committee. Mr. Erickson served a single term on the school committee from 2015 to 2018. The other 2 contested races on the ballot include Constable, where 6 candidates are looking to fill 5 positions. There are 5 incumbents in the race and 1 single challenger. Finally, the race for the Board of Library Trustees features an all-challenger field after incumbents John Burns and Rory D'Alessandro chose not to pull papers for re-election. Margaret Myatt, Stephanie Abisla, and Scott Vecchiola all seek to fill those 2 open seats. And here is an early reminder that the 2019 Milford Town election will be held on Tuesday, April 2nd. Milford's 3 polling locations will be open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. And once again, Milford TV will be broadcasting live from Town Hall on election night. Our coverage will begin right after the polls close, and we will bring you the official ballot results as they are announced. As always, we welcome all candidates from contested races as well as uncontested races to join us on air during our coverage. This week brought us the first of a series of candidate forums that will be held around town. The forum was held this past Thursday inside Milford High School, where the current senior class was able to meet and interact with the candidates for Selectmen and School Committee.
Being able to vote is really important, and exercising that right and that privilege responsibly is a duty that we have as citizens. And my hope this morning is that the time that we'll spend together is going to help you exercise that privilege and that responsibility in an appropriate way, because that right to vote and that privilege to vote requires that we do so in an informed manner.
My name is Mike Walsh. I'm the current chairman of the Board of Selectmen here in Milford. Your principal brought up a great point. Tip O'Neill, the former congressman, had a great saying that all politics is local. And I used to say all the time, when I was on the school committee, as one of the school committee members, I was responsible for spending $46 million a year of taxpayer money. And it was very difficult to get people to come out for a local election. And that's why a forum like this is so very, very important, that we teach you as young people that your vote does make a difference.
I'm running for Board of Selectmen. I'm so happy to be here talking to you. Like Mike had said, the Board of Selectmen has a $100 million budget that we run. There's only 3 people on the Board of Selectmen, and they determine where we put that $100 million. This is a very large town that we live in, but there's only 3,000 people that vote in this little election that determines who spends that $100 million. And I encourage you to get involved, and please, if you all registered for vote and then showed up on April 2nd and voted, you could change the election. You could change where Milford spends that money. Because I think if you got a little bit involved, you might be a little shocked to hear what's been going on in our own town with how our Board of Selectmen thinks and how they spend money.
I was wondering how purchasing the Milford Water Company would help us preserve the resource. Like, who currently owns it, and how are we going to be able to preserve it by purchasing it?
So the Milford Water Company is owned by another company called R.H. White, which is a large construction company. I can give you one great example. If you call the Milford Water Company on a Friday night at 5 minutes of 5, you have brown water, you have an odor in your water, or you have no water, chances are you're not going to hear from anybody until Monday morning, till the water company opens back up. You can go on the town website. My cell phone number and my email address are right on the website. You call me at 5 o'clock on a Friday night and tell me that you got odor in your water, you got brown water. Trust me, I'm going to call one of the water commissioners and I'm going to say, I'm going to meet you at 101 Highland Street in a half hour. And we'll make sure that we take care of that right away.
And the current Board of Selectmen did some sort of handshake deal over $63 million purchase that then sort of fell apart. And now we have lawyers involved, and it's going to be maybe $153 million because the water company is now holding us over a barrel because they know we want to purchase them. And I spent 10 years in business before I got my law degree. It's just not how you handle a purchase like that. I think that if you called Mike Walsh and you had an accent, you know, he'd want to, how would he know whether you're legal or illegal to come and meet you at your house with a brown water problem? That's my question.
I do want to point out that in the center of the table, Mr. Legore is the incumbent, who's been serving on school committee for some time, and then the remaining candidates are challengers, and I believe we have 2 open seats that we have 6 candidates who are competing for. So first, I'll give Mr. Justin Dulac an opportunity to introduce himself.
The reason I'm running is because I can hit the ground running. I studied education in college. I did substitute teaching at every level of the Milford Public School system after college. And for the last 3 years, I've worked as the executive assistant to the superintendent in Sudbury Public Schools, directly supporting both their superintendent and their school committee. So I'm very aware of what the relationship should be like between a superintendent and the school committee, as well as all the other employees in a school district. Additionally, I've also served on the School Improvement Council here at the high school with Principal Ottman for about 1.5 years now, so I'm keyed in on what's going on at the high school level.
I'm here today to talk to you a little bit. I'm running for re-election. I've been on the school committee for the last 3 years. It's been an absolute privilege to work for this district. I know we are here at the high school, so we're focused specifically on talking a little bit about what value we're going to add if I get an opportunity to come back for another 3 years. School committee generally manages budget, generally manages policy, but what I've had the opportunity to do over the last 3 years is work collaboratively with administration, not only from Josh Otland's perspective, or Principal Otland's perspective, but also Kevin McIntyre, Superintendent McIntyre, Mr. Consigli, and on down, looking for ways to improve the educational process here. And I know it's not amazing to talk about or sensationalize, but we're looking for ways to improve post-secondary outcome for everybody. So whether you're on a college track or you're not on a college track, we're looking for opportunities to improve life after high school.
My name is Tarek Miranda. I was sitting here just 5 years ago before I graduated in 2014. I'm running for school committee because I just really want to give back to the town and the school system that's given me so much. I know better than most of them what the students need and want. And I really want to work with the administration throughout the entire school system, the school committee, the town, and making sure the future students, because you'll be graduating, that they get exactly what they need and we can move forward and succeed as a town together.
If I get elected, I'll be out there fighting for you guys, the students, be giving you guys the programs and the policies that you guys deserve. It'll make your lives better, for a district-wide late bus to to encourage you guys to have after-school extra help and after-school extra activities without the burden of transportation falling on you or your families. I'll be fighting for greener, more sustainable schools to reduce our environmental impact here in the district. I'll be advocating for policies and programs that will have a benefit on everybody here, because whether or not you're going to live in this town, or your family and friends are, better Milford schools will benefit us all.
Like a lot of your classes now, we're going to have a pop quiz, okay? When someone asks you if you learned which candidate is most qualified to serve on the school committee, you can answer. Let's hear it. Okay. Well, you all get A's, and I'll try to get you an early dismissal.
So you guys recognized a bunch of issues that are in this school, but what are you actually going to do? What programs are you going to put in place? What people are you going to work with to actually solve these problems?
In terms of school start times, that's a lot. There are a lot of different discussions that are going to happen there. You need to talk with bus companies to figure out what kind of runs you need to make. You need to talk to teachers about how it's going to impact school schedules. You need to talk to students and families to find out how it's going to impact their work schedules and their after-school activity schedules. So there's a lot of different parties we're going to have to involve in that discussion.
Looking at a new facility, if you were going to start from the ground up, we're looking at a $200 million endeavor. So we're going to be taking that in steps. There's a lot of discussions on whether or not we're going to build a field house, what direction we're going to go in order to improve that. As of right now, there's also a capital budget which allows us to make targeted improvements to this facility moving forward. I know it's hot in here in the summer. I know it's cold in here in the winter. This building is 47 years old, so it needs a lot of upkeep and maintenance, and that's what Rob Quinn and his staff are designed to do based on a capital budget approved by the school committee in the town.
So, as I mentioned earlier, MCAS scores are one of the biggest problems we have, and I would tackle that by creating a plan that would allow for the hiring of new teachers to teach where we're struggling and reinforce those subject matters, because that's what a lot is based on, the school, and how other families look into the town if they want to move in here. The first thing to look at is school and safety, and if we're not performing well, then we lose out on people moving into the town, and it could be great people.
One way that I hope that if I get elected, I can push my agenda is with the help of you, the voters. I want you, the voters, to hold me accountable for what I'm telling you I will do. I want you guys to come to the school committee meetings, taking advantage of that invitation to speak and saying, hey, I want you guys to do this, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. Working with my committee collaboratively and getting constant communication from you, the voters, is how I think I can be held responsible and to do the things that I'm telling you I will do.
As far as improving our academic process, my feeling is we need to get back to the basics. And I know that we live in a technological world now, but we still need to know how to read, write, and add 2 and 2. So we should concentrate on that and get back to our basics. If you can read, write, and add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you can succeed in college or seek other career opportunities other than a college degree.
Later this month, the Milford High School Theater Workshop will hold their spring musical. The theater workshop will bring to life the 2001 Broadway hit Urinetown. While it may have a peculiar name, the show is filled to the brim with big laughs, great music, and thoughtful commentary on a host of social issues. As the old saying goes, you can't judge a book by its cover. It turns out you also shouldn't judge a musical by its title, especially a title as quirky as Urinetown, the show set to open over at Milford High School later this month.
Urinetown is a place, a mythical place, and it is sort of a mystery what Urinetown actually is, but this is set in a sort of not post-apocalyptic, but it's after a 20-year drought where basically this one big corporation has taken over this town and controls all the water, and so people have to pay to use public amenities. And this is actually based on a real situation that one of the writers found himself in Europe, actually, where they do have like toilets that you have to pay for. And so it just got him thinking like what it would be like if that happened and corporations had this complete control. So the title itself, which is very quirky, is a pun on, you're in town, because that's the idea that everyone is kind of stuck in this blighted society. But the show itself is also, self-aware, like characters break the fourth wall and talk to the audience and even comment on the fact that it's a weird title and it's a weird premise for a show. So it's a lot of very like nudge nudge, wink wink, we're all in on the joke here. And at the same time the music is also like parodying lots of different famous musical theater styles and even other shows. Like you got your little Les Mis moment, your West Side Story moment, even Fiddler on the Roof. Like the music really reflects all that. So it's really all meant to be very tongue-in-cheek and funny and self-aware that it is a bizarre title and a weird premise.
I had no idea what the show was about. I had heard the title multiple times, but I didn't really get the premise of it. But now I know what it's about, and I think it's really funny.
All the poor people are suffering and not having the money to pee, and the rich people really have those resources, and so you see that divide, and it's sort of a satire on society and how that financial difference affects society.
After featuring a pair of iconic and lighthearted shows last year, the MHS Theater Workshop has taken a completely different tone throughout this school year as they've tackled serious societal issues.
It is kind of funny that last year we did Alice in Wonderland for the fall play and Cinderella, so these very bright, shiny Disney fun shows. So I guess we somehow took a turn for the darkness this year. Not necessarily intentionally, but the kids do vote on the shows, and so this just seemed to be the direction we were leaning in. And I think it's kind of cool to go from doing something like as well known and as family friendly and kind of bright and shiny as Cinderella to doing something that's less well known and quirkier, not produced as often. Although Urinetown has developed like its own sort of cult following, and it was highly critically acclaimed when it came out in 2001. It won several Tonys, including for Best Script and Best Score. So it's known for musical theater fans, but for the general public, maybe not as much as something like Cinderella or Guys and Dolls. So it's cool to embrace like a less known show, and a black comedy is a fun thing to attempt with musical theater since it's not as common.
The cast for Urinetown is anchored by a trio of actors that have been heavily involved with the theater workshop throughout their high school careers.
One of the main characters who also basically functions as the narrator is Officer Lockstock, and he's played by senior Maddie Miares, who also directed our fall production in November. And so he's the one who's primarily talking to the audience and commenting on the action.
So my character is a little bit different. He's the narrator, but he's also one of the cops. So he's working for the rich people, but it's kind of indeterminate where he came from. In my interpretation of it, he came from a poor family, and so he's experienced both sides of it. And since he's the narrator, he's also kind of on the outside, so he's commenting on that satire and how the poor people are really poor and how the rich people are really rich and how there's that divide in between them. It's definitely difficult because sometimes I feel like I have to interpret it as almost two separate characters, but they're also connected because there's times when I'm really engaged with the audience, but then there's times when I'm only engaged with other characters, and so I have to think about how my character would engage with the audience versus how they would engage with other characters.
Senior Jacob Dias's strong acting chops are on full display as he portrays Urinetown's leading man, Bobby Strong.
I just like that he's a little bit cocky, but not too much that like it ruins his personality. Like he knows he fights for what he believes in, and I admire that about him.
Emily Fry appears opposite Dias as Hope Cladwell, the charming female lead and daughter of the show's main antagonist.
It's very interesting because I've never gotten to play the love dynamic role before. I've either been in ensemble or I've been the comedic relief. So it's like a completely different world to me. Like, it's just been so weird. But like, I'm really glad that if it was gonna be anybody I was gonna do this with, it's gonna be Jacob, because he's made it pretty comfortable actually.
I mean, it was kind of weird at first because we've been friends for so long, but we've eventually gotten a lot more comfortable working together, and it's a lot of fun working with Emily.
You got a little Romeo and Juliet issue going on. Again, this idea of can love survive in this really difficult situation where, again, like most of the hope has been lost in this town for years and years. Most people are suffering, and again, the character Hope brings a ray of hope to the town. Again, very self-aware show.
With final rehearsals underway and the show quickly starting to take shape, I asked the cast and crew what moments they think will resonate most with the audience.
I think it'll either be a toss-up between the Act 1 finale, which is like the big scene where everyone's in, everyone has a part, it's a big dance number, and maybe Run Freedom Run, because it's just a soulful gospel song, and I love it so much.
There's some beautiful romantic songs, some, again, very like clever sort of nods to more classic things like Guys and Dolls. Again, there's a moment you would swear was like straight out of Les Mis, like waving the flag for the masses. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that appeal to people for different reasons.
And speaking of the audience, what can they expect to take away from their time in Urinetown?
I think at first it seems really silly, and I think the way the writers of it have set it up is so that at the very beginning you think it's silly and doesn't really have a point, and by the end of it, they really hit you in the face with, this is what we're talking about. And so I think that's the experience the audience is going to have, where at first they're like, this is this whole silly thing, and then by the end of it, they're like, oh, that was there the whole time.
Over at the Crossroads Clubhouse, this time of year has become synonymous with shamrocks, pancakes, and raising money for a good cause. The clubhouse weaves all of those things together seamlessly with their annual St. Patrick's Day Pancake Breakfast. This year's 26th annual breakfast will take place on Sunday, March 17th. To get you ready for the event, let's take a look back at a few highlights from last year's Pancake Breakfast, courtesy of Milford TV member Caitlin Mobilia.
Hi, I'm Kate Mobilia. I'm here at Crossroads Clubhouse, and we are here at the Pancake Breakfast. We're gonna go see what's going on and ask some people some questions, and it's gonna be great. Let's go! So what is Crossroads Clubhouse?
Well, Crossroads Clubhouse is one of over 30 clubhouses across the state that work with people with serious mental illnesses to get back to their life. School, work, whatever that may be. And one of the wonderful things about our program is it's around partnership and equality. So members do everything from grant work to bathrooms, and I do everything from grant work to bathrooms.
What are we doing here today at the Pancake Breakfast? What are you raising money for?
Well, we're raising money to support the Crossroads Clubhouse, which provides support services for people who are in recovery and people who have some sort of a disability, and it provides employment services, it provides counseling services, and a host of things to make people feel at home and to help them get back into their community. This is a great resource for our area, and you know, although I don't need to eat many pancakes, I'm happy to have as many as possible to help this cause.
We're here for Crossroads Clubhouse, which is a program that I've been very supportive of ever since Val Colmaford took me through back in 2010. I was first running for state representative at that point, and she was living in Blackstone, and I knocked on her door at her condo, and she said, "There's a place I need to show you." And ever since, I've been very, very impressed with this place. We got a lot of wonderful people here. We got David over here on our left, and it's just nice to see people like him and how much they do for the community.
I'm here with Mike, a member here at Crossroads Clubhouse. How has Crossroads Clubhouse helped you?
They helped me find employment in the earlier years of my life, and they helped me take in my medical appointments at Riverside, and which is in Upton. The clinic is in Upton. They helped me with work right here at Crossroads.
Other than the Pancake Breakfast, what kind of other events do you have, like in general, or like fundraisers that we should know about?
So one of the other events we have each year is we usually have an annual picnic. We've been having that every year for I think annually, and then I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're having it this year or not. We're going to be doing some renovations coming up, so things might be changing around. But you know, we've also been, you know, a big part of Crossroads is helping people in employment and that kind of thing. For members, people who are members here, we have socials every Thursday, and we might have like a karaoke night. We have what's called an employment dinner, where people learn job skills and they also get a free dinner, which is nice for them. We have weekend breakfasts for people. every Saturday we'll have a free breakfast for members to just sort of socialize and be a part of the community. But in terms of fundraisers, this is the big one. This is the big thing each year.
It's a great thing for the community, and I'm glad that this place is here, and I frankly think that there should be more of them.
That's all we have for you tonight. Next week we will sit down with Molly Osier to discuss the details for the upcoming Brookside's Got Talent showcase. We'll also bring you a recap of the Citizens from Milford sponsored candidate forum, which is being held on Thursday, March 14th. We thank you once again for joining us on this edition of the Milford Informer. From all of us here at Milford TV, this is Tim Coet saying have a great week. So long, everybody.